everyone, it's Ray here from City Fan TV, and I'm joined today by Peter Thornton, and a few of you will recognise Peter from the channel and lots of other places as well. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm doing good here, Ray, in snowy Ramsbottom this morning. And managing to survive COVID as good as we can. It's
quite coincidental. I was watching a film earlier this morning. It was West is West. You might remember that. The East is East and West is West. And they talk, in the West is West, they talk about Ramsbottom. So it's not too far from me when I'm living in England. Guys, we're here to talk about Sam Mewis. That's the purpose of our little interview today. Massive player for City and the US women's national team. And we're recording this on Saturday lunchtime. And we heard overnight, that Sam got injured playing for the US women's national team. So hopefully it's not too bad an injury. She had a little bit of ice on it. And we wish her well in her recovery because we need her in Manchester. So what we're going to have a look at is a little bit of the history of Sam and look at her impact on Manchester City and maybe whether she'll stay and what will happen going forward. So briefly, I'll just say, last summer, Man City signed 5 big name players, 2 World Cup winners from America in Rose Lavelle and Sam Mewis, 2 Champions League winners from Lyon in Alex Greenwood and Lucy Bronze, and 1 exciting talent, English player from Everton, Chloe Kelly. And my opinion is Sam has done the best of everybody. And I'll give you her nickname. You'll hear it many times from City fans. It's the Tower of Power. And she towers above pretty much all of the players. I think she's about 5'11". I've got to start asking you, Peter, how do you think she's fitted into Manchester?
I've got to say, Ray, out of the 5 signings, with the greatest respect to Lucy, because obviously we'd had Lucy before, and Lucy was like coming home, I was most excited about Sam Mewis. I think in the women's game, she's one of the very few people that has, very few players that has like a real presence on the pitch. And I think, we're always going to have to compare players, their effect, like what we've seen with the men's game. But you think of like Yaya Toure had a presence on the pitch. You think of Vincent Kompany had a physical presence on the pitch. And you see Sam Mewis and she strides around that pitch and you can see the other players looking and she, just that. I think the other thing that she brings to it is she is a tower of power, but she can play. She can play. She holds that centre of midfield. Like I say, she has that physical presence, but she's got great feet and she has great vision. And I think the other thing that I'd say is she seems to have that knack of being in the right place. The ball comes to her, and that is a skill. Having coached at junior level for a long time, I don't think you can teach that. That is something inbuilt in players. And you see the number of times already that she's popped up in the penalty area at just the right time. Scored some big goals for us already. I think she's been immense. I love that reference to Tower of Power because, of course, because we can't go to the games anymore, you sort of, unless you're all over social media 24/7, that word of mouth thing is gone. And I spent the first, certainly up to Christmas, calling her Big Sam, better Big Sam, the better version of Big Sam. And I still do in our house when we're talking about City women, I still call her Big Sam. So, but what a player, fantastic. And I think she's like the template of the type of women's player that will get to come in 10 years' time. I think every team will have 3 or 4 Sam Mewises. As the maturity of the game grows and as the girls come into the game, you'll see each team with 2 or 3 Sam Mewises. But what a player and what a signing, terrific.
Absolutely. As I said, 6 goals in 18 appearances is fantastic for a midfielder. Yeah. And like you said, if you compare it to the men's game, like Frank Lampard arriving at the right time, and holding off a little bit and being available to score those goals. This week, she played for the US Women's National Team in a friendly against Colombia, scored a hat-trick in that game. I think, if I remember correctly, one with the left, one with the right. and one with the head as well.
A perfect hat trick, as they call it, isn't it?
And she set up, if I'm right, she set up a goal for her sister as well. So her elder sister. And it's interesting that Megan Rapinoe has said that Sam Mewis is the best player currently in the US women's national team. I mean, I've got to be honest, that's high praise from someone like Megan Rapinoe.
I think you can genuinely say with Sam, you know, everyone bandies in men's football and in women's football, you know, they bandy the term world class about, but she genuinely is, no question about that. Right now, if you're picking a world 11 to take on Mars, Sam's in it. No question, Sam's in it.
Absolutely. So obviously we did want to look at the importance she has as a team. In midweek we played Chelsea, big game. Chelsea for me are the best team in the country. And you know they are. I think that's 3 times on the banks. They beat us 4-2. Sam wasn't playing. Do you think she would have made enough of a difference for us to compete in that game, or are Chelsea just too good and we were a little bit weak because of injuries in COVID?
I do. I think she would have had a big influence on the play itself, you know, and no question about that because of what we've just described. But the one thing that I think the players from America bring with them is that winning mindset. And one of the things, having been a season ticket holder at the women for 4 seasons now, I sometimes wonder about their match management, especially in the last few minutes of games. Now, to me, once Lauren has put us 2-1 up as late as we did, as good as Chelsea are, we have to see the game out. You know, see the game out. We've done the hard bit, see the game out. And that is where I think we miss Sam. I think with that mindset that the Americans have, and you saw it in the World Cup, the last World Cup, and England pushed them very close there. But they have that winning mentality, and that game management is, we are going to do this, you know. And there comes a point in games where once you've got that score, you've got to see that game out and make sure that you win. And it doesn't have to be pretty after that. You know, if we can, let's play in their half. Let's keep the ball in their half. But if it's in our half, let's make sure that we do the right thing at the right time. And I think that's where we missed her as much as anything.
Absolutely. And we were talking off air about City's formidable season where we won 14 games on the bounce. And we did, and we won 4 games 1-0. We did what it took in those games. Once we got ahead, we said, you're not coming back. And we've seen it a bit this season in the men's game as well. We take that lead and it's like, no one's going to come back against us, which is really refreshing for us. And looking back at that Chelsea last season when we drew 3-3, it was basically the title game. And exactly. And you think with a little bit more mentality, the right mentality on the pitch, maybe we could have seen that game out as well. It would have been league winners last season. And
I remember, Ray, literally on the final whistle standing up and going, that's probably cost us a title. That lapse at the end there, that's probably cost us a title, you know. And everyone was going, oh, there's a way to go. And you go, yeah, there is a way to go. But that was a big one, you know. It wasn't.
Even if we, you know, at the time we thought that we'd finish the season, I didn't think we were going to catch Chelsea. I thought they were just too good. And actually that turned out to be the final game of the season. And it was eventually decided on points per game. Another question you see across social media, and there's a few, I won't mention who they are, who keep writing messages to Sam Mewis and saying, sign an extended contract. Now, if I'm right, Sam is here till the end of the season. What do you think? Do you think, I think the first part of my question is going to be easy. Do you want her to stay? And do you think she'll stay?
Of course, yeah. I mean, like I say, she's genuinely world class, not just Champions League winning class. She is world class. So that gives me hope. I think she will. I think she definitely will. And the reason I think she definitely will is that Abby Dahlkemper, she's a big mate. If you have a look at her with the American team, if you have a look at their pathways, they both came from North Carolina. They both came through. You have a look. You know, obviously I've been on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and see it, they are big mates. You know, they go everywhere together with the United States team. They've come through the ranks together. They are big mates, and there's nothing I don't think secures players' future better than that. There just isn't. If her big mate is playing for City, and Sam's had a great season with us already, I think it's written in the stars that she's going to sign another one. I really do. I'd be amazed, Ray. I'd be gobsmacked if she didn't sign after this, because I think one of the other things I'd say about Sam is you can see that joy in her play. You can see she's having fun. She's having a good time. She's a very smiley sort of face. She wants to win, but she looks like she's having a good time on the pitch. And that, again, as much as anything, is a big factor in how you're going to go or how you're going to stay. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Abby. Yeah, sorry, you mentioned Abby Dahlkemper. Now, she signed a 2.5-year contract, and this is where it all rolls in together with this idea that Sam's going to stay at 2.5-year contract. And she didn't sign, or she wouldn't have signed if she hadn't spoken to Sam. And this is what happened. And Sam had basically sold it to her as well. So, you know, you'd think, well, if Sam was going to leave in 6 months' time, maybe you'd have signed a 6-month contract or a 1.5 years. But a 2.5-year contract, you're not going to come here and then one of your best mates is going to leave.
Sure.
Some reassurances. You know, and it's not the level of reassurances of a Kieran Trippier telling his mate, "Lump on, man, lump on." But I don't think it's far from that. And I can see a few City fans legging it down to the bookies and asking for odds on Sam Mewis staying, because I like you, I think it's almost nailed on, unless something happens in the world to stop that. I think that's nailed on.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. They can only be the COVID connotations. I think that, you know, if COVID really spins out of control and everybody has to, like, you know, buckle down or, you know, like really close the borders and everything, then people have some big decisions as to where they're going to stay, you know. That certainly is a factor, but that's in terms of a football factor. I would I'm not going to put my house on it, but I might put the kitchen table on it.
Put the kitchen sink, but not the house. Absolutely. Who else do you think might follow? I mean, obviously City now are building. We're looking a little bit beyond just Sam Mewis, but when you've got someone of her stature, and I'll stick my neck on the block and say I've not seen a better player in the Women's Super League than Sam Mewis this season. And I've watched, I think, almost all the City games that have been out there, and a few others as well. Big games between Arsenal, Man United, and Chelsea. Who else is going to be looking at City and saying, "Yeah, actually, look at them"? You know, like we say, Abby Dahlkemper, Rose Lavelle, Lucy Bronze, Alex Greenwood, Lauren Hemp in her own right is making people turn their heads. And Sam and others, you know, could Sam's sister come? Could other world stars come? And could this, through Sam and a few others, push City to the next level, which is basically where we want to be: Champions League challenges and maybe getting a Premier League, the Women's Super League title?
Yeah, I think the way that I look at it is, I think the plan is very similar to the men's team. I think they want to set out and have 2 top class players for every single position. And that's why I thought for the women's team and for the men's, to be fair, this season was going to be a transition season where they sort of get the ducks in a row and then go, you know, and hopefully do as well as they could. But next season will be the big one. I think this season they will have a real do at the Champions League. That's what I think they're aiming for. Realistically, the Women's Super League, that's going to be a big ask from where we are now. But you can see that with the signing, I think, of Abby, you think of the strength we've got at the back there now, you know, unbelievable strength in depth there now with Abby. You look through the team, you've got, you know, like people like Ellen White. Ellen White, not guaranteed a starting position in our team. She'd walk in most, other Premier League, Women's Super League teams. And so I think they're nearly there with that. I really do. I wouldn't, perhaps there might be another American comes, who knows, but I don't think they're looking around the European teams and going, "Oh, we won't mind here, we won't mind here," because they're more or less, if you have a look, they're more or less there now with the 2 for every position. I think long term, and I think it's terrible the way sometimes Steph gets stick on social media because, you know, to me, she's just like bulletproof. You know, you think of the men's game, you know, Vinny made some of the best mistakes you'll ever see, but, you know, everyone forgive him straight away because he was Vinny. And they should do so with Steph for the service she's given to the club and her stature within the game. But long term, clearly they're going to have a plan to replace her. And to me, with Abby, that when they signed Abby, and just as a by-the-by, I love the fact she's taking number 13. I always think someone that takes number 13 is mentally strong, aren't they? They are. I'll have it. And she looks like a defender, Abby. She looks like she likes defending. She likes that 1v1, that nature. Me against a great signing. She looks like a great signing. And long term, that looks like with Alex, and we've still got Jem Bomb. You know, what strength we've got there.
Absolutely. And we saw Esme playing against Chelsea.
Esme.
Played well against Chelsea.
Terrific.
I'm going to ask you a one-word answer here. I don't know if you can stick to just one word, Peter. Sam Mewis, best player in the world right now?
Yes.
I concur totally with that. Absolutely. I'm going to say massive thanks, Peter, as always, to come on the channel. It's lovely. It's always lovely to have you on. I know you're a very, very busy man, working all hours. You know, if you guys don't know much about Peter, you know, he's done a lot of stuff in the past, Commonwealth Games, a lot of stuff with City. You might have seen him in the back of a taxi with Pep. Is that you, Peter?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was the biggest surprise of my life, let me tell you. I didn't know that was happening. And of course, that's the effect they wanted in the film. Yeah. But what I would say is I am a big advocate of women's football in my capacity of my involvement in grassroots football. I'm a big advocate of women and girls football. And writing the film that the girls walked out to was a great honour for me as a City fan. And I love the women and I love going to watch the women's football. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, it's been wonderful, Peter. It's all, as I said, it's always fantastic to listen to you. Could listen all day long, but we've got to condense these videos down. But we could just go on listening to and talking to you for hours. But it's been, as I said, a massive pleasure having you on. And we'll see next time the vote comes round for the best player in the world whether Sam Mewis is the Tower of Power and she gets the top accolades.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Ray. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.